Hey there, and welcome back to this channel. I'm Manu, and I'm your dedicated longevity coach. And I'm thrilled to have you join me on this amazing journey towards unlocking the secrets to a more healthy and vibrant life. In today's video, we are diving deep into the topic of a whole food plant-based diet and its benefits, not only when it comes to longevity, but also when it comes to our overall health. And, as someone who lives and breathes the pursuit of well-being, I've come to realize that there's always something new to learn, and all of this is a continuous learning process. So there's always a new thing to discover, a new perspective to gain, or valuable tips that can make a significant change in our day-to-day life. And I don't claim to have all the answers, but that's what this community here is all about. So we're all on this together. So if you've got a nugget of wisdom, if you have a tip that works wonders for you, then please drop it in the comments and share it with us such that we can spread the knowledge of longevity. It would be amazing. So whether it's optimizing our nutrition or whether it's something like being more mindful or exploring the latest research in the field of longevity or science, this channel here is your go-to resources where you can find all the knowledge compact and combined such that you can benefit from it. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, my friends, let's embark on this journey hand in hand, armed with knowledge and having this passion for a healthier and happier life. Thanks for being part of this incredible community. And now let's get started. So what is a whole food plant-based lifestyle? How does it look like? And if you'd ask me, my definition of a whole food plant-based diet could be something as simple as it's a vegan diet, so it contains plants, but instead of removing the good stuff, we want to keep all the good stuff together and we do not put on top of that bad stuff. And how could this look like? Just to give you an imagination, if you take, for example, white wheat flour. This one is a processed food, and I would not mention or consider this to be a whole food plant-based food because there the fiber is removed. So the good stuff is the fiber and that gets removed. While, for example, if you take a whole grain, there the whole plant was just smashed and it was grounded, and so it contains all the elements the plant had before. It's just in another constitution. And another thing would be, for example, if you take a vegan burger, even though a vegan burger has some ingredients that are whole food plant-based, something like peas. A lot of vegan burgers use, for example, pea wheat. And this one is actually good, but if you put on top of that processed foods like, for example, sugar and oil, this fast food is no longer whole food plant-based. And I think it's good to make this distinction between whole food plant-based foods and processed food. So while whole foods basically contains all the ingredients, all the nutrients and all the vitamins that are in the plant itself, even though it's, for example, grounded as a whole grain flour, for example, processed foods, there's something extracted, for example. Either you extract the fiber or you just extract the sugar, you dry something and get rid of all the good things that are actually in the plant. I mean, sugar is one of the most popular examples where everybody knows that it's highly processed because it's the most processed carbohydrate, let's say. And why is it important for our bodies, for example? If you take highly processed foods and For me, a nice definition for a highly processed food, or let's say it's an ultra processed food, is every food that has either more than 5 ingredients on the ingredients list. Like if you buy it in a supermarket and you look at it, either it has more than 5 ingredients, or another definition for me is, can I make this, what I'm buying, at home myself? So actually, if I'm buying a pizza, it's very likely I can make the dough and stuff like that. But if I buy something where lots of chemicals inside, it's much harder to make it at home, right? And so this is highly processed. And eating highly processed foods has another influence on our body than eating whole food plant-based foods. And the difference here is, for example, in when you eat processed foods, lots of calories can be stored by the body, while when eating whole food plant-based lifestyle, a lot of the calories are not even taken from your body. So even though you're eating, let's say, 3,000 calories a day, it's not that your body actually takes 3,000 calories a day. It's more likely to have like 2,500 or even 2,000, because of that amount of fiber that you have. Fiber, the thing that our body can just hardly destroy. And if our body deals it differently with the two foods, let's say whole food plant-based or other processed foods, it's very easy to see that our body reacts differently to them. In particular, if you are about to adopt a whole food plant-based lifestyle, what it does to your body is that you are not likely to get common chronic diseases, something as a high blood pressure, something like diabetes, something like, for example, coronary heart diseases, something as stroke, dementia, Alzheimer's. All of them can be actually prevented from eating a whole food plant-based diet. And this is not the only thing, because if you already have all those diseases, or let's say you have a high blood pressure and you want to get started in that whole food plant-based diet, you better visit your doctor and be very close to him, because if you start eating on that whole food plant-based diet, it actually can be that the effects are so instantaneously that the medicine that you're taking for lowering your blood pressure would lead to a low blood pressure. So a whole food plant-based diet can, for example, reverse high blood pressure, can reverse type 2 diabetes, can reverse coronary heart disease. And this was already shown in the 90s, but it's not only that. For example, my spouse had asthma symptoms, and also asthma symptoms can be treated with a whole food plant-based lifestyle. And there's so much more around of that. For example, also allergies can be treated with that. And there's another thing that you will observe when you just get started, is that you're losing weight. And even though you thought you had the perfect weight and you look absolutely fine, when you're feeding yourself on a whole food plant-based diet and you do it on such a way that you get all the nutrients that the body needs, it happens so naturally that the body gets rid of all the fat that is stored even in between your organs. Even though you were looking, for example, skinny on the outside, it still can be, if you're consuming lots of animal products beforehand, that you have lots of fats in between your organs. So even, for example, even though you're an athlete and you're very shredded, it can be that first your cholesterol values are really high, which can be lowered using a whole food plant-based diet, and you can get rid of all the fat in between the organs. And third, if you're somebody who wants to look fit all the time, you don't have to restrict yourself on, for example, carbohydrates. And weight loss is not the only thing that you experience if you get started on a whole food plant-based diet, because also what happens is that your whole metabolism changes. If it was, for example, slow before, by just eating more nuts, your whole metabolism increases. So you will feel that you have more energy to do the things that you love. And this is really amazing when switching towards this kind of diet. And this, in my perspective, is because of the amount of fiber that you're actually eating with this diet. So if you put in a lot of fiber, your GI tract gets cleared. It's like somebody with a broom is just brushing everything that is inside your GI tract out of it, and then your whole body can flourish, and it flourishes with giving you lots of energy. And this is the beauty of such a lifestyle. And so now you might say, wow, this sounds too good to be true, but what can I actually eat? Because most of the things outside there, they're highly processed or even processed. So what can I eat? And of course, it seems like in the beginning it's a restriction compared to what you've eaten before. But just when getting started, when you're actually starting, you feel like a whole new world will open up. And in the beginning, as I got started with this whole food plant-based lifestyle, what I did, I was using the Daily Dozen app from Dr. Michael Greger, and it helped me tremendously on just logging my successes every single day. And until this day, I mainly follow this plan because it's simply amazing how science is combined with a nutrition plan. And I just want to mention what's inside this Daily Dozen and what I'm actually eating every single day, such that you can get an idea what you can actually eat. So the first thing are beans. For example, you can have chickpeas, lentils, black beans, kidney beans, fava beans, whatever it is for you. It's amazing, and you can make, for example, hummus out of it. I really loved this one when getting started because it helped me to gain all the beans, the legumes that my body actually needs to flourish. And in this Daily Dozen app, it's about 3 servings a day. And if you now say, wow, but I don't want to fart all the time, I don't want to get bloated, just let me tell you this. When you want to get started with legumes, then the first thing to do without getting bloated is to start with lentils. Because lentils, they have the lowest amount of the thing that makes you feel bloated. And if you soak them, for example, overnight, it's even less of these things that are in these lentils. And then you can increase gradually how much legumes you're eating. You can even go then to chickpeas, and the best thing to do is soak them overnight before. And it's all about the process. Another thing that I encourage you to eat when being on a whole food plant-based diet are berries, because berries are rich in antioxidants, and these antioxidants, they fight the oxidative stress that you face every single day, whether you're being at work, whether your surroundings, for example, the air pollution, or if you have kids. It's also a mental load that you're carrying every single day. And for this, it's amazing to eat berries. And Dr. Greger, for example, recommends 2 cups of berries every single day. The next one is, of course, fruits. All the other fruits are still amazing. The more fruits you get, the more your body will get vitamins and nutrients and can flourish and can repair everything what's inside the body. And then, of course, vegetables. Vegetables are exactly the same. They're just amazing, and they're giving you lots of vitamins. And basically, if you eat colorful you can't miss any vitamin because it's all in there. It's all inside the plants. And even though you're saying, well, I'm lacking protein, I think 70%, I think it was at least 70% of all the people out there are eating way too much protein. And if you're just consuming a whole food plant-based diet, you won't lack any protein. And this is amazing because all the plants, they contain protein. And in that group of vegetables, there are two species that I would highlight. Dr. Greger takes them also in different categories. The first one is cruciferous, and cruciferous, they're just the cure to everything, it seems to be. Cruciferous vegetables, it's like broccoli, it's cauliflower, it's also kale or Brussels sprouts, broccoli sprouts. And these ones are so potent when it comes to getting a cold, because studies have actually shown if you consume just like 12 grams of broccoli sprouts every single day, then viruses can be injected in your nose and you won't get a cold. Isn't that amazing? The other category Dr. Greger emphasizes is dark leafy greens, and they are amazing not only when it comes to getting more endurance, like running longer, for example, or even in a weightlifting sense, bench pressing even more, but also when it comes to our mental health, because there is a connection between our brain and our gut. And if we are eating greens, for example, what is happening then is that your cravings will go away very easily, because the brain area that is responsible for your cravings, for example, if you see a donut and your whole mouth is full of water and you think like you want to have it, this brain region will not light up when you ate greens, for example. So now we had legumes, fruits, and veggies. And of course, what Dr. Greger suggests is also whole grains, to take 3 portions of whole grains a day. This means it could be also something as whole grain pasta, or I and my husband, we like to have spelt, for example, or quinoa, or millet, for example. It could be many different things. And of course, one thing is missing, and it's the nuts. Nuts are very important when it comes to our brain health, to get enough omega-3 fatty acids. And they are simply amazing, even by increasing our metabolism. The effects of nuts are still not completely figured out in science, but what one could find out, even though you can increase your amount of nuts, you won't gain much more weight. And this is just the amazing thing about nuts if you eat them in their wholest form. One seed is taken out from them because you should consume it every single day, and it's flax seeds, and it has high anti-inflammatory properties, and you won't miss them out. And of course, in a whole food plant-based diet, what you can eat all day long are a lot of different spices, and in particular what you want to have every single day is turmeric, because turmeric is also an anti-inflammatory. And our body, specifically when we're consuming lots of processed foods, our body tends to have inflammation inside of our body. And with all these whole food plant-based foods, the inflammation will go away. And this is amazing. This is why you can improve the asthma symptoms. This is why, for example, arthritis, you can improve arthritis within 2 weeks, and the patients had no pain any longer. Or you can improve so many different diseases that are linked to inflammation. And of course, for a whole food plant-based diet, what never should be missed is water. Like, get enough water every single day, like at least 1.5 up to 2 liters of water are amazing to hydrate your body, because if you don't hydrate, you can feel, for example, that you can feel yourself tired, you can feel yourself sluggish, you can feel yourself not being yourself, not being focused anymore. And so it's very important to drink every half an hour at least a glass of water. So now you know all the ingredients, let's say, to a whole food plant-based lifestyle. But now is the question, like, what should I cook? And this is something in the beginning I had no clue. Even though I had this list, I didn't know what to do. And I just knew that, for example, half of my plate should be veggies, a quarter of my plate is whole grains, and a quarter is protein in form of, for example, legumes or nuts or hummus, let's say. But I didn't have any idea what to do. So that's why I just want to give you some inspiration if you want to get started. And one of them, of course, is hummus. I love hummus. And I have an Arabic friend who provided me this recipe, and I'm so grateful for having this, and I want to share it with you because it's so delicious. And it is you pack in the food processor, you pack a bit of a lemon juice and a bit of tahini, and then you mix it, you stir it, and until it's all blended. And then you add cold water, and the cold is very important. You add cold water, and then the whole tahini lemon sauce will get very, very hard, and you add liquid until it's really smooth. And afterwards, if everything's really smooth, you can add garlic powder or garlics as you like, and you can add cumin. And what else do I add? I love, for example, to have paprika powder or cayenne powder, but it's not for everybody. And then I put the chickpeas on top and I blend it, and I have a delicious hummus. And this hummus you can have, for example, with a slice of bread, or you can have it just with a few veggie sticks, for example, in the evening when you want to watch a movie. Then you just take some cucumber, carrot, and so on, and just dip it and snack it. And this is an amazing recipe, I believe. And another one I want to share with you, because we are doing it so often and it's so easy. It's usually when I'm cooking, I'm doing a batch cooking. I have like a 12-liter pot where I made everything in one pot, and the remainder goes to the freezer. So this is how I make, let's say, 6 to 10 portions. And we eat 2 of them, and the remaining ones go into the freezer. I love to make a lentil curry. And how I'm gonna make it, I boil some red and some brown lentils and put some sweet potatoes and some carrots in it until they're almost done, let's say. I don't know, I never track time actually. Until they're almost ready, and I put some broccoli on top. Sometimes I even use onions for that. In the end, when it's done, then I add mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I add them, and on top of that, I add coconut milk. I add coconut milk. I add curry powder. I add garlic. I add paprika and chili, for example. And I add some nut butter. Usually I love to add some peanut butter. And then you have a whole pot full of this delicious thing, and then you can have it with a slice of bread. Or we love to have, for example, some spelt, or I also like to make it nowadays that I boil quinoa with some millet together, and then I add some, after cooking, I add some tahini and also some curry powder, and I stir it. And this is also a very creamy thing, and it makes you feel full and satisfied, and it's just amazing. And if you're somebody who has absolutely no time to cook, for example, like I'm not the one that is in the kitchen very often. I'm actually just cooking once a week. That's maximum. And this is, for example, one recipe I just shared and nothing more. And in the morning, I'm just throwing all the fruits that I would love to have in my smoothie maker, add some greens, add some cacao powder, add some turmeric, flaxseed, black pepper, all of them together, and maybe some nuts if I want to have it richer. And then I have like 1.5 liter of smoothie, and this fills me until I have lunch. And this is also a very, very simple recipe, let's say recipe, because you can decide whatever you would love to have. It's very easy to make, and it takes you roughly 5 minutes in the morning. And usually in our family, we love to have easy recipes because we have 2 little ones, and both of us are self-employed, so we do not want to spend hours of hours just being in the kitchen. So I love making smoothies in the morning and in the evening. And for lunch, we have something warm, but I just cook once a week. Now, once you know what you can actually prepare, I just want to give some more tips how to get started, to how to make your life much easier. And some of them I already mentioned. For example, I have a smoothie maker to make it much easier than just a blender, even though a blender works amazing. And I take a blender with me, for example, for my vacations. A smoothie maker makes a huge difference because then I can do other things in the kitchen while the smoothie is blended. And of course, I have a food processor, as I told you, for example, hummus, or what I love to make in this food processor is brownie. Brownie made out of, okay, let's just share this recipe. I love it. I make it at least once a week. 100 grams of walnuts, blend them until they're fine, and then put them in a bowl aside. 200 grams of dates inside the blender with some water, blend it until it's smoother, and then you can add 100 grams of some nut butter of your choice, let's say. And you can even put some cinnamon, for example. I love to put, wherever I have the chance, I put turmeric and black pepper because they're working well together. And putting the walnuts back and putting 2 tablespoons of cacao powder, or even 3 or 4, depends on how much you like cacao powder, and then just stir it. Done. It's like really 5-minute cake. Done. You just put it into the fridge and wait until it's a bit cooler, or if you're somebody like me, I cannot wait. I cannot resist that delicious food. So a food processor is amazing to have because it makes life so much easier. Not only hummus, nice cream, for example, just put bananas in and just put frozen bananas in and some nut butter, done. And a third tool I'd encourage you to have if you want to get started with this is a pressure cooker. Because a pressure cooker it saves you such an amount of time, because whenever you want to cook legumes, for example, it takes long. It takes really, really long. For example, chickpeas, they can take up to 2 hours if you boil them, but in the pressure cooker it takes, for example, 40 minutes. Or let's say if you have quinoa, for example, if you cook it, it takes 15 minutes, or in the pressure cooker it takes 1 minute. It makes a huge difference. And just one tip that I want to give you: when I know next day I want to make a meal, for example, with some legumes, then in the evening I pressure cook them before. So when I'm cleaning the dishes, I have my pressure cooker next to me on the stove, and they're just cooking while I'm cleaning the dishes. And so you don't have to do it next morning, and it saves me so much time. So now you know why a whole food plant-based diet is amazing and what are the ingredients to this particular diet and what you can actually prepare. But now there's some things that always come up when you talk to somebody about this lifestyle, even though if you just tell somebody you're a vegan, these things are always coming up. And so I want to address them such that you can make your own perspective on that. And the first thing is you don't get enough protein. And this is something I already tackled here, is to say more than 70% of all the people eat too much protein. And with that in particular, I mean they are eating too much animal protein, which is harmful, for example, for our kidney, as it contains a lot of acidity. This is another story. But usually, if you consume plants and if you're eating enough on this lifestyle, then you will automatically gain enough protein. And actually, you can feel the difference if you get your protein from plants versus getting your protein from the animal, because the protein from the animal needs several days. Yes, I said several days until the protein gets into your muscle, because it has to be digested. While if you're eating, for example, spinach after having a workout, like if you have a shake with cashews and spinach, and let's say you put a banana inside there that it's tasting delicious, then your whole body can absorb it from your stomach and the protein gets immediately in the muscles. And so it's a whole new level of protein that you're getting, and you get enough protein from plants because all the plants contain enough protein to serve you, and all of them have the full amino acid profile. And another thing I was actually concerned about when going to a whole food plant-based diet, because as we changed, I was in the 6th month of pregnancy. So there was the question also for me, do I get enough calories? So is my nutrient intake also enough for myself? And this is something we can learn when transitioning to the whole food plant-based lifestyle, is that we have to eat more than we were used to when we eat processed food. Just consider this. Before, you were eating probably processed foods, many processed foods, and those processed foods, they have a higher calorie density, right? And with this higher calorie density, it means that you need to eat less to get the amount of calories that you need. Just consider, let's say a burger has 1,000 calories, and what can I eat with 1,000 calories in a whole food plant-based lifestyle? The easiest thing, for example, would be to eat 200 grams of nuts. But if you eat 200 grams of nuts, it takes a long while. Second, you will get probably more nutrients than from this little burger. And third, you would be full after eating probably 100 grams. And this is the thing. Many people believe that when they're changing to a plant-based diet, they do not get enough calories. Of course, that you can, for example, track when using the Daily Dozen app from Dr. Michael Greger. It's amazing because then you can actually check how many checkboxes you could click. And in the beginning, it was hard for me to get all, I think it was 24 checkboxes, to get all of them clicked. But once you get used to the lifestyle, it's much easier to say, I don't want to have a processed food because it's basically empty calories for me. Not because it's no calories, but because it has no nutrient density. And this is the thing here, Because when we start eating on a whole food plant-based diet, what naturally happens is we get more nutrients, we get more vitamins than just feeding ourselves on, let's say, a vegan burger. Another thing that I hear very often is that when you start eating this kind of lifestyle, then it won't taste good, and you're basically eating every day the same food. And I can get where this comes from, because I also used to think that way. And for example, if my family, if we ditched salt in our diet, there was a tremendous change, because then for the first 2 weeks this saltiness in the food was missing, but all our nerves, they just need 2 weeks to adapt, and then you feel like nothing is missing. And when it comes to eating a variety of food, you can still eat whatever you like. In a sense, you can adapt the food such that it's whole food plant-based. For example, you can make a whole food plant-based lasagna, or you can make a whole food plant-based bolognese, or you can make a whole food plant-based curry or a cake. There's a whole variety out there. But the thing what I would say, it's mostly in our heads that we're making things up, because they make us fear, because change, as we know, change is hard. And when changing towards a whole food plant-based diet, for me it's not only about health. For me, it's also a huge amount of this lifestyle is because of the animals. For me, it's an ethical decision, for example, that I do not want to harm animals. And this is another thing that's a positive thing that just comes naturally when choosing a whole food plant-based lifestyle, that you save so many lives, and you're saying no to what's going on in livestock. Right now, what becomes more focused than ever right now is our whole climate change. And one thing I want to share with you, and I know there are so many different numbers out there, is when you would just change towards a vegan diet, just a vegan diet, just saying not whole food plant-based, but just a vegan diet, depends on which studies you're looking at, it's up to 80% of all the greenhouse gas emissions are coming actually from livestock. Everything what's included in that, for example, land use, so many forests will be destroyed for growing soy for the livestock. And what most people think is that the soy that is planted is for vegans, while actually I believe 90% of all the soy that is growing is for livestock. And if you would just get rid of all of that, like if you would get rid of livestock, if you would get rid of the crops for livestock and all that stuff, water pollution will go away, and our climate will change so rapidly. And if you then just consider, let's stick to this number, 80% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from livestock, while around 15%, I think it's 15 or a bit less than 15%, comes from the whole transportation sector. And if you'd now consider that so many people will buy e-cars, like electric cars, will buy e-scooters, whatever, and I love it that the technology goes more in that direction, while it makes me sad to see that everybody is focused on these areas like airplanes, ships, or cars, while our climate change can be shifted so easily by just reducing livestock. And the influence of this sector is so immense that I'm proud to live that whole food plant-based lifestyle and to know that I support Mother Nature, because I think we're all one and we deserve it to live on this beautiful planet, and I want to protect it, and that's also why I choose to have that way. And this is just another perspective on looking on that. No matter how good the benefits are towards health and longevity, for example, it has a tremendous effect on our life as well. So after having all of this knowledge right now, how to get started? That's the big question. And of course, there are several ways. Like, it differs from person to person. But what I found, which is the easiest and the less stressful way to do it, is just to gradually increase the amount of whole foods in your day-to-day life. That could be, for example, that you say, once a week I have a whole food plant-based meal. Then you go on and say 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 1 whole day, 2 whole days, 3 whole days, and so on and so on and so on. And something that makes it very easy is if you set yourself goals. If you have, for example, a checklist yourself, what you want to achieve in the next month. And in particular, if you know what you want to achieve, to ask yourself, why do I want to achieve it? Because if you have a why, you can remind yourself every day. And in the beginning, sometimes it can be hard and it can be tempting if you go to a bakery and you can smell the croissants and you see the donut that is so delicious while you're just getting your whole grain bread, for example. But if you know your why, everything else becomes so much easier. And once you find yourself in that process that you're going towards a whole food plant-based lifestyle, still there will be some challenges from time to time. For example, if you have a family get together and you don't know what to eat there, what you can do instead of just reacting on what's there is to proactively ask your family members, hey, could you just do that one cake for me? I'll give you the recipe. Or could I just bring some cake for all of us? And this is amazing what I realized in my family when I'm bringing some cake and my grandma is like, oh no, I can't eat the cakes that are provided here on the table. And I tell my grandmother, well, this is actually something you can do because it's no added sugars, it's no added oils, etc. pp. And then she says, oh wow, this is amazing, now I can eat it. And she's so happy, and it makes my heart open up just seeing how happy I can make even other people. And if they can also get a taste of what you're doing, and they can see actually how you're as a person and your body is changing, on your whole energy around yourself, it's changing. And then they'll ask yourself, what is your secret? And this is so amazing to observe after being on that lifestyle for more than 3 years now, that still people watch us as a family and they are like, wow, where do you get all the energy from, right? And let's say there's another situation where you want to go out with your friends to a restaurant. What you could do, for example, you could ask your friend for this specific restaurant where you want to go, for example, a vegan restaurant that is probably better than let's say another one where mostly meat options are available. I mean, luckily, most of the restaurants nowadays have vegan options, but going to just a vegan place is so much easier and makes it so much easier. Or if you have this this business meeting somewhere in a restaurant, and you know you have to go there, and you know there are not many vegan options, what you always can do before you go there is, for example, just drink a smoothie and then order a small bowl of salad or some, let's say, some oven potato. This is also an option that I was figuring out myself how to deal with those situations. And if you want to figure out even more recipes towards this whole food plant-based lifestyle, I encourage you to visit nutritionfacts.org. So that is the platform that is designed by Dr. Michael Greger, and it's completely free. It's just amazing. He provides so much content around around health and effects of the nutrition towards our health and also longevity. And so this is so valuable. Also the Daily Dozen app, where you can just check what did I eat today, how many servings did I had, and to improve yourself on the journey towards a whole food plant-based lifestyle. I feel like we covered so many things in this video. I told you about the health benefits and what to eat on a whole food plant-based diet, and what's the difference between the processed food versus a whole food plant-based lifestyle, and actually what you can cook and which devices you can use such that you can make your life easier, and gave you some tips that you can follow on your journey. And I know this is so much content. That is why I want to encourage you. You don't have to implement all at once. Sometimes it's really the little things in life that have the greatest benefits. So if you start changing one little thing in your life, it would make such an huge difference in your energy, in your life, in your vitality, and even for your longevity if you just start on this journey. And please let me know what is your one key takeaway from this video. Just drop it in the comments, or if you want to share one tip that changed your life forever when going on a whole food plant-based diet, or something, some practical tip, what's your favorite recipe, then just drop it in the comments. I'd be happy to read from you and to learn from you. And I think this is all about in this community, that we can learn together, that we can grow together, and that we can make this amazing world a better place. And I'm happy to see you next week, and until then, I wish you an amazing and energetic week.